to Stitched by Sarah, and as you can probably guess, my name is Sarah. I am based in New Zealand, so I know my accent is not Australian. It is actually from New Zealand, which is known as the home of sheep and hobbits. Can't really get much further away, especially from the States or Canada. I've been following quite a few YouTubers that are based in Canada or in the States. But as you can imagine, shipping to New Zealand is quite expensive, given that we're probably one of the furthest countries in the world away from them. So I kept seeing these really cool things being sewn and decided that maybe I would give it a go myself, since it's quite hard to find things like that here in New Zealand. I am a single mum. I have a daughter who is 13. So as you can imagine, mum being on social media is going to be exceptionally embarrassing. So if you've got any tips on how to not embarrass your teenage children whilst being on social media, please do let me know. I'm also mum to two furries. I have Bella and Fudge. Bella is a cavoodle and she's teeny tiny, and Fudge is a giant cat. So my cat is actually bigger than my dog. And both of them have been amazing company for me, and I love them both a lot, even though they do tend to drive me nuts sometimes. I have a genetic hypermobile disorder, try saying that quickly, and that's led to some complex health conditions, and it means that I get quite a bit of pain and fatigue. It also means that I get confused sometimes, and multitasking is a bit of a challenge, which is why you probably won't see me doing things while I talk, because that's not going to go well. Back in 2022, I had quite a full-on corporate role, and I was loving it, but it was very, very intense, and literally overnight I went from working full-time to not being able to work at all. And the flare that I went into has been a lot worse than my medical team thought at the time, and it has meant that I haven't been able to work since that happened. It's been incredibly difficult not being able to work. It's something that I would love to do dearly, but in the past, when I have set goals and worked really, really hard towards them, I've been able to achieve them. But with the health challenges I've got, if I do that, I actually go backwards really quickly. So it's all about pacing and trying not to do too much and resting wherever I can. I'm lucky that in New Zealand we have an amazing benefit system. So I am able, as a single mum, to live, put a roof over the head of my daughter and myself, and feed us. But there's definitely nothing left for treats or doing anything nice, or excursions or outings or nice clothes or anything like that. It is extremely frustrating, and 2.5 years on, I've realised that I really need to reevaluate the skills that I've got and reimagine what my future looks like. And so didn't go looking for sewing, but sewing has definitely risen to the top as an opportunity for me. I discovered reusable gift bags last year when I was looking for some ideas on what I could make for teachers' presents for my daughter's teachers, and thought that that might be a good idea to try and create a business or something out of, but it turns out they weren't very viable. So I still have a few reusable gift bags, but lots of friends and family got them for Christmas presents, so it wasn't the worst thing in the entire world. Oh, we've got incoming. Come here, baby. Bella's coming to join. Oh, this is Bella. So she's probably going to come cuddle down here with me. Back to what I was saying. It's hard not to frame something like that up as a failure, but I've learned from doing a lot of mindset work that it's really important that we don't think of things like that as being a failure. And so I've kind of been thinking of it more as an opportunity to learn and to discover some things about myself, and that it's okay to realise that something's not working and to pivot and to go in a different direction. I found it hard at the time because I was really hopeful about it, and I had no idea what I was going to do. But thanks to YouTube, some things came into my feed, and I started thinking, hey, we don't have that in New Zealand. Well, it's not easy to get New Zealand, or there's not a lot of it, and maybe there is something that I can do in this space. I started sewing when I was 10, so now at the ripe old age of 50, I have been sewing on and off for 40 years. I initially started making dolls' clothes for myself. I'm not too sure how I had the dexterity to make Barbie doll clothes at that age, but I was. And then later on in my late teens and early 20s, started making clothes when I couldn't find what it was that I wanted for an outfit. My mum quilted, and so I did some quilting around 20 years ago. And my last sewing project until recently was a quilt that I made for my daughter's nursery before she was born, so that is a while ago now. I have made the odd costume for my daughter for school discos or Halloween and things like that, but haven't really got the sewing machine out and done much for quite a while now. The sewing machine you can see in the background there, and this little plastic table, no idea what it's called, were actually my mum's. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2006, so she's quite young when we lost her. And at the time, all of her sewing things got boxed up and they came to me, and there were a lot of boxes. I was unable to face opening those boxes for a really long time. It's when you don't know what's in a box and you don't know what emotions it's going to bring up when you open it, it makes it quite hard, so you sort of end up avoiding all of them. I did a couple of years ago start getting into them and found like the quilting mats and this thing here, and lots of thread and some other quite useful things. And so I got those things out, and there's still some boxes I need to go through. I think there's a massive pile of zips somewhere. Might be a spaghetti mess though, so I might continue to avoid that one. But yeah, I was lucky enough to have from her the sewing machine that Dad bought her, some cutting mats, some rulers, and that's really meant that I have been able to start sewing again without having to make a huge investment into it, because as you can imagine, on a benefit, no disposable income for things like this. You can pop down to Spotlight and spend a few dollars on fabric, especially when it's on clearance. Go clearance. So it is a way that you can start doing things and not have to have a huge outlay for the business, for a potential business. So my goals for 2025, I'm under a new specialist, and I've actually started seeing some improvements in my health, which is a huge relief after actually going backwards for a while, even though I was doing everything imaginable to try and get well again. And I'm really hopeful that I can continue to build from this, actually in my exercise gear, because I was out walking Bella before I decided to film this, and actually being able to go out and walk for 20 minutes feels like a massive achievement for me. We're slow, but I'm walking, and I'm able to do it more frequently than I used to. So gotta celebrate wins like that. I know that I have good days and bad days, so it is very much an unknown how much I can sew in any one day. I'm just starting slow and seeing where things go and just taking it one step at a time. The really good thing is that I can cut out a few scrunchies, or I can sew a few seams, and then if I'm just not up for it, I can stop and just put the project away and come back to it when I'm feeling better. And some days I'm feeling pretty awful by the end of the morning, but after a rest I'm able to spend half an hour or so doing something, and it feels good to see some creations coming together with the sewing machine. I find that sewing's good for me because it's, for me, a form of mindfulness, and it just allows me to relax and get out of my head and focus on what I'm doing in that moment. So I see a lot of YouTubers watching TV while they sew, or listening to podcasts or music or things like that. Hopefully I might be able to get back to that point, but right now that would be too much concentration at one time, so we will just stick to sewing and focusing on that. It has been so good to find something that is giving me a purpose and meaning in my life, because after so long of being stuck in bed and having to rest and watching TV, and oh my goodness, it was amazing when I got well enough to be able to read again. But after 2.5 years of doing all of that and watching a lot of YouTube, it does get to be quite depressing, and others may not be the same, but for me, I want more out of life. I like to achieve, so it's incredibly difficult to not be able to set goals and really focus on going after them. So we've got to have baby goals and baby plans for going after these things I want to achieve. I would really love to turn Stitch by Sarah from a hobby to a way of earning some money, even if it's just a small amount. That would just be so good. I've begun on Shopify Starter, and I'll probably talk more in a different video around that because I didn't even know it was a thing. And it's a pretty amazing way for someone like me, for a very small amount each month, to be able to put myself out there. In New Zealand, we really don't have Etsy. So you go to Etsy New Zealand and basically you are spending quite large amounts of money, because New Zealand dollar doesn't always convert very well to American, for example, and then you go to shipping and sometimes you're paying 3 times the cost to get something. So many times, like my daughter's fallen in love with someone who's doing like a lip gloss, and she'd love to buy some, and then you go through the process of ordering and the shipping comes out to $60, which is like 6 times the cost of the item. So it really makes it not viable to use that as a channel to sell. So it is really much a case of having your own website or a mini site like what I've got at the moment, and using that to promote your products. It would be really cool to have my own Stitch by Sarah domain at some stage. You'll be surprised to know that Amazon isn't a thing here either. It has made it to Australia, and yes, you can pay to ship things from Australia to New Zealand. So we're dealing with a very, very different market down here in New Zealand. The other very strange thing about us, when I compare myself to what YouTubers are doing, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, is that Christmas for us comes in summer. So the busier periods in the Northern Hemisphere for a craft business are basically from October onwards leading up to Christmas, and it's the winter months. You're going around to autumn, you've got Thanksgiving. We don't get a lot of, I've never had snow in Auckland. So right now it is going to be, I think, a high of 26 degrees Celsius today, and we're in February. So the market and the way it's going to work annually will be quite different. So I'm trying to learn from other YouTubers and crafters and see what they do, and then try and turn that into what would work in the New Zealand market. I would love to eventually get to the point where I have product bins filled with scrunchies and other handmade goods, and I see other businesses with this, and I would love to have them lined up with pretty colours in them. But for now, I'm in my little apartment with my sewing machine in the corner of my bedroom and working out where I can put things. It's a bit like Jenga, but we will find spots for it, and that's okay. I have so many ideas for products, and I'm having to make sure I rein myself in and be pragmatic and realistic, and launch the right things at the right time after doing a lot of research and planning. So far I have launched Swim Scrunchies, which is, because it's summer here, you can imagine get a fair amount of use. And I'm wearing one at the moment. They're quite good for exercising in as well, because they don't absorb water or sweat the way that a normal scrunchie would, and then they don't get all soggy afterwards. So my daughter and her friends have been having a huge amount of fun swimming with these, and I keep losing them because she keeps stealing them to go with different swimwear. But that's okay, it's a good problem to have. I've also started with the satin, so I'm doing XL sizes. This is one with white elastic, and this is my favourite colour. And then I've also dabbled in what I'm calling School Scrunchies. So basically I've got two-tone satin, and I've looked at what the colours are of the local schools, and I've basically combined them, so got one on one and one on the other side, and when it twists together it can look quite cool. So hoping that there's potential for that as well, but we will see. I did try to do markets with the bags at the end of last year, and wowzers, that was a bad idea. Physically getting ready for the market wiped me. Going to the market and the physical exertion of lifting tables and boxes and everything, then sitting there for several hours, I basically get to the point where the pain was excruciating by the end of the market, and then I'd pretty much be in bed for several days afterwards. So not the best plan to be in markets. So in order for me to be able to pace properly, online makes the most sense, and so that's where my focus is going to be, because I can control things a lot easier there and make it something that helps me rather than hinders me, because this is part of my journey to really taking my life back and living something that's more normal, and being able to experience most things rather than having to live vicariously, especially through my daughter. I live vicariously through her a lot at the moment. I hope that you have enjoyed this video and that you will join me on my journey where I try to take Stitch by Sarah from being a hobby to a business. Thank you.